I'm from Finland. Thank you. Amazing. Yeah, I think this is international church. You know, we can share our origins. And I mean, for those who are a bit younger among us, even if I don't manage the full sermon, which will be great, you know why it's great? I always feed myself on the sermon. You know, I'm always encouraged. When I read it again, I'm really encouraged. Would you believe it? There is a delivery. I'm ignoring it. The family will have to pick it up. So, you know, I came from non-believing family. My whole family are non-Christians. But when I was about 15, 12 to 15, when I was 12, I lost my granddad. Now, because I didn't have my father, my granddad was everything to me. You know, boys, I'm sure you understand. It's great to have a dad or a granddad or some kind of male in the home, because, you know, there is a lot of fun and there is order. And so my granddad was all that to me. And when I was 12, he died. Shocking, totally shocking to me. It just completely ruined my psyche. I remember for a few years, I was just like, you know, body without life. Seriously, it really affected me. So when I was 14, 15, I started to ask serious questions like, you know, what happens when we die? How come we are here? How come I exist, you know? And so when I was 15, 16, I became Buddhist. Okay? I became Buddhist. I read so many books on Buddhism and I meditated, and I found a great group of people, you know, who were spiritual, and that was definitely my first step. But, you know, in Buddhism, things don't always make sense. It's almost like hidden. You don't really understand how things came to be. And so later when I was 21, I was invited to Net 98. I know some of you will not remember. It was only yesterday, 22 years ago. Who would believe, you know, that I'm 20 years older than I was back then, you know? By the way, those who are young here, you are 21 day and the next day you are 40. It just happens so quickly. It's unbelievable, you know. I was 20 and suddenly now I'm 44. It's crazy. So tomorrow I'm 64. So life is just so short. So when, you know, when the Bible says we are here for 6,000 years, you know, when I was young, I was like, oh, 6,000 years, that's like eternity. It's not. 6,000 years is actually not that long at all. Time goes quickly. And especially when we can enjoy life, you know, life is something to enjoy. So, yeah. So when I was 21, I was invited on one of the birthday parties. There was a birthday party, and my friend was saying, you know, you are looking for spiritual things, don't you? And I said, well, yeah. She said, well, tonight you will go with me because there is a presentation. And I said, like, what is it? Well, don't worry, just come. You know, this is how you invite people, okay? Don't tell them what it is. Don't explain anything. Just come, you know, especially when we have good friends. That's why it's so important to have good friends. Because with good friends, you just say, come on, you know, don't ask too many questions, just come. That's how you do it with friends, you know, and they will not be offended if it's something they didn't eventually want to do, you know. Okay, well, I love it, you know, so you have to love it with me. You are my friend, so you have to love it too. Anyway, so I was invited. I was suspicious when I came to the church building, honestly. You know, imagine my mom, whole my childhood, she was saying, anything you want to be in your life, just don't become a believer. Now, you know, imagine my mom telling me this. I don't know what it means to be a believer. I never heard what does it mean to be a believer, but she's telling me that I should not it be. But it's difficult not to be something when you don't know what it means to be it. If you know what I mean, yeah? So that's how ignorant Czech people are. We are, You know, under communism, we were not allowed to be Christian. Christian means no education for you, no education for your children. And if you want to serve in the church, well, you will sweep the streets as a job. You have no future in that country. By the way, the church was strong as ever back then. You know, because people came into the church and they sacrificed everything. So they knew, you know, it was not like just joining church, you know, I go through the baptism, I am a little bit wet for a few minutes and then I, you know, far from that. It meant serious decisions to be made. And I think, you know, the freedom of these countries, however biblical and great, it doesn't always help us, you know, on the journey. If we have to sacrifice for what we believe, we cherish it more. Anyway, so I was kind of suspicious of the church, but then when it came to creation, Pastor Dwight Nelson, some of you know Dwight Nelson, Pastor Nelson, you know, he was explaining all that you see has been made, designed, you know. Some of you younger ones will know 3D printers today, you know. Imagine you would say the 3D printer assembled itself. I mean, 3D printer is an amazing machine. It can make anything. You just put in information and it will give you the product you need. So he said, look, all that you see was designed. It was made by God. And, you know, I know that it doesn't work with everybody, but when he said that, all my questions suddenly were answered. I love nature, you know. I love nature. I love being in nature, climbing on trees and walking in the forests and all that. And I had, you know, I admired nature. I was like, you know, there must be something. And so when he said that, it was for the first time in my life, it was like everything connected in my head. Yes, connected, yeah? And that day they called for, you know, who would like to give life to God? And I said, well, if this is the God they worship, I wanted to be baptized because I wanted to follow the Creator. Anyway, that's my brief story. I thought I would share it with you.
Amen.
Like a little introduction to my life. But today, I clap to God because he was very patient to me in my life. And I'm thankful that he stopped me on my journey. And it's so great to see here some young people, you know, not easy time for you, but we need to be able to respond to people who challenge our faith. We need to be able to respond. And I will do that today with you on one example. Just a little example, okay? Now, by the way, I'm aware sometimes those who are asking or challenging our faith, they don't really want to hear our answer, yeah? I'm aware of that, yeah? If they are serious, if they are really asking, well, then spend time on it. Tell them, you know, if you want to really seriously think about what you are saying, let's sit down, let's think about it. You know, your faith is just a crutch. That's what people say. Correct? Have you ever heard it? People tell you, you know, your religion, your faith in God, it's just your crutch. It's because you are weak. You need something to lean on. But, you know, I'm far beyond that. I don't need these crutches. And it's fine. If you need your crutch, you keep it. But for me, I don't need it. Have you ever heard this? Yeah? Anybody knows this gentleman called Jesse Ventura? Fighter. I mean, not fighter jet, but like a wrestler. He became a governor of Minnesota.
Yes.
Maybe no longer in place. It's okay. But he would say, you know, organized religion is a crutch for weak-minded people. Of course, he's strong, this guy. He's a little bit bigger now, he grown. So he may need to change diet as well. But Jesse Ventura says, you are weak people, you need God. Anybody knows Ted Turner, the founder of CNN? But you know CNN, so at least there is a link. CNN, founder of CNN, Ted Turner. Christianity is a religion for losers. Okay? We don't like to hear that, but come on, that's what people say. Now, I could give you a whole list of people who say exactly the same. How would you respond? And now I would like to ask you, how would you respond to that? What would you say?
I would just say, look at the world, what is outside. It's amazing, and it couldn't have just happened out of nothing. Someone has to make it. That's what I say.
Elder, certainly you would not like if your friend or colleague would tell you you're not just weak, you need your religion as a crutch. It's not just now about design in nature. That was my story, but now they are telling you you are weak. How would you respond? I mean, without becoming defensive.
I would respond by I wouldn't even tell them anything. I'll just focus on God and keep my eyes away from them.
Amazing. It's one way. It's one way. It's definitely one way. We don't always need to respond. Okay? Think your thing, Keep looking up. Emmanuel, great. Thank you. Keep connected. No words of man can disconnect us from God if we don't let it. Excellent. Thank you. Anybody else? One more, maybe?
You can always pray for them, like obviously not mention like they'll get defensive if you tell them that you're praying for them. So like just do it within your own privacy sort of thing,
Yeah. But you can kind of laugh. You can just smile to what they say, and you can say, "Hey, I would just pray for you." I just pray for you.
I was with the guy who doesn't believe in God for quite a number of years, and we used to talk about it. I think for almost about 5 years, and he has got his own way of thinking. But I always told him, my God still lives. And he would say, no, he doesn't. I said, but he does. I know it. So I left it there.
I was watching some funny videos last week. When you have, sometimes your head is just like that. And I saw these 40 luckiest people in the world, videos, and there was this guy who on skis going through the hill in some mountains. A 30-meter drop, which we didn't see. 30-meter drop on his skis. He fell down and he fell into a thick layer of snow. And he was okay. And the first thing on camera was looking up, thank you. That was the first response. It was just so funny, So yeah, look, we are living in still extremely good times. We don't face a huge challenge. I know we face challenges, but there were times which were much tougher in the past. So let's see how these people would speak in those times. Okay. Let me respond. Is there anything wrong with crutches? If I break my leg, I need crutches. When I was younger, I repeatedly sprained my ankle. I loved jumping off the stairs at school, and so often I sprained my ankle. I did it repeatedly because my ankle was loose. Actually, it's stronger now because I'm not jumping from stairs anymore. Became wiser. But I have still crutches from my teenage years, you know, because I needed them at some point. If I need crutches, I keep them. I use them. Nobody will tell me, oh, you are weak, you need crutches. Yeah, I've broke my leg, so I need crutch. You know, if I need God, I need him, full stop. And I will tell you scientifically how a non-believer is teaching me about it. Non-believer will teach me about the need for God. Do you know who he was? Anybody who did a bit of psychology? Hello from Scotland. Michael is here. Michael is my best friend with his family, Pavlina, Tobiah. I don't know, you need to show your face, you know. Are you in? Michael, I don't see you. Don't leave me alone. Well, anyway, you will show up in your time. Oh, we see you now. Excellent, excellent. So this is the Scottish branch of the Czech department. Okay, so the guy who was teaching about the need for God was, anybody knows psychology, the pyramid of needs?
Yeah.
Maslow. Remember? Maslow.
Maslow's
Maslow.
Maslow.
Wow, everybody says the name now. You know, he was a committed Christian. He was not Christian actually at all, but he built this pyramid of needs. You know, we have some basic needs and so on. We have needs. We just have needs. We have to eat. And it's not like, oh, you are weak, you know, because you have to still eat. Look at me, you know, I'm not eating anymore. That's not what we say. We need to eat. We need to breathe, by the way. Try to do it, not to breathe for a few minutes. You know, you might be colorful then. So Maslow had this pyramid. And it was only at the end of his life, listen, it's at the end of his life that he added to the needs. He added, let me read it, self-transcendence. He said we have a need for something greater than us. We need something greater than us. We have this need. It's not just, you know, it's not optional. He said we have the need, and it's interesting that Maslow recognized it at the end of his life. It's often when we are losing life that we recognize that we have some more needs than just, you know, when we are young, it's like, you know, I remember when I was at school and we did stretching at school, we did stretching, and I was always like, why do we do stretching? Let's do something proper, because I felt no pain. I didn't need to stretch. And the teacher always had the need to stretch because he was stiff. But for me, as a 10-year-old or 15-year-old, I had no need to stretch. So with age, we recognize actually when I'm 40, stretching is really nice. Well, when you get 60, you may recognize that without God, it's really difficult to have a purpose in life. And that's what Maslow recognized. I need something greater, kind of reaching beyond me. Anybody knows Blaise Pascal?
Yes.
The scientist, yeah, Blaise Pascal. Anybody know what he did?
Pascal's wager.
Oh yeah, okay. Right, he's got beautiful books, by the way. I mean, I forgot this was his, Blaise Pascal. I took it from his book. Pensies, yeah, Pensies, kind of his thoughts. The book talks, in that book he talks about the Pascal's wager, by the way, but he talks in that book that we have God-shaped vacuum inside. We have God-shaped vacuum inside. We need God. You know, if somebody says, oh, you need God, but I don't, well, by the way, we will see later, you need too. Augustine, Augustine in his Confessions, amazing book as well, by the way, Confessions of Augustine. Introducing the book, he says, you awake us, God, to delight in praise of you, because you made us for yourself. You made us for yourself. We are made for him. What's wrong if my child needs father? Nothing. It's actually seen that that's a healthy child. The child needs father and enjoys in father's and mother's presence. And that's why I chose Psalm 42, where David says, as the deer pants for water, so my soul pants for you, O God. My soul thirsts for God, for the living God. Now, sometimes, we think Psalms are kind of little devotionals, as David was playing his harp, yeah. Anybody here imagines David? Yeah, he's playing his harp and he's composing his next hymn. But that's not the context. His hymns are composed in wars. Okay, let's just take it in. His hymns are composed in war zones. His life is threatened. And you can just name the stories. Yeah, he was fighting his whole childhood. His young age. He just fought all the time. These are cries of somebody who says, I need God. I need a living God, because I might die tomorrow. I don't know if I will be here tomorrow. He's screaming to God, I need God, the living God. That's David. Atheism, the belief there is no God, is the last psychological crutch for a non-believer. Atheism is the last space, the last crutch people can hang on to, so they don't have to believe in God and they can live however they like. Why is it crutch? Because it's a belief system. And it's not actually belief system based on evidence, it's actually belief system based on wishful thinking. It's a hope there is no God. Some people just run away from God. Scientists today, there is a very famous book from a very famous scientist. He says, we must not allow God's foot in sciences. That's it. How do you get rid of God? You say he's not, but you reject him and you deny him any access. It's your last crutch. Everything is pointing to God. Everything is pointing to God. You have to really suppress it and just say no to it. That's the only way. That's what naturalism is. Naturalism believes only nature exists. Only nature exists. How do I know? I don't know. I believe it. That's it. You cannot say there is God who made it. It's not allowed. So now, please, if you ever share this with your friends, do it gently. We are not, we are not fighting anybody. Not at all. But we need to remind ourselves that when we are accused, we need to test if the accusation is not applicable also to them. Just turn the table and say, isn't, by the way, your belief even bigger crutch to you than my God to me? Just check it out. Maybe you are accused of something they themselves are living. So are you weak? People, just very briefly, are you weak? Let me quote from here. I like this quote. Nowhere in the annals of history can one find more courage in the face of adversity, more perseverance in the face of affliction, and more boldness in the face of persecution than what faithful Christians have displayed. You are weak people, but trust me, Christianity survived everything. I like my home countryman, John Huss. Anybody here knows John Huss? Nice to see. I see Emmanuel there is joined by somebody. Nice to see that as well. Do you remember John Huss? You need to read the Great Controversy book. Ellen G. White dedicated full chapter to John Huss. Yeah, so that's the man who was burned on the stake for his faith. Yeah, from Prague. He was the Charles University rector. He was the principal of that university, and because he was teaching ordinary people and he was slightly vocal, he was burned on the stake. Now he was singing when burning. He was weak man. Certainly not. He was supported by this God and was able to burn and sing at the same time. Christians are not weak. They may be tearful, they may be broken, but they are strong. and you will quote Paul, you know, I'm strong when I'm weak. Because his strength is manifested in me when I'm weak. Jesus is teaching us in John 15:13, no one has greater love than the one who lays his life for his friend. Ask them, ask the people, are you willing to die for your friends? Are you willing to give your kidney, your liver? Are you willing to give your life for your friends? Well, that's what Christians are. It's not for weak people. It's not for them. And our young people are faced with challenges at school every day. Every day they hear opposition to Christianity. Every day they hear opposition to Jesus Christ. And as they age, it becomes more prevalent. Young people, you are not weak, you are strong. Back home, we have a book from after John Huss's time. I think it was John Amos Comenius who wrote, no, it was Alois Irasek. Anyway, he wrote a book against everyone. Against everyone. Why? Because at that time, Christians had to fight against everyone. It was a very difficult time. Christianity is not for weak people. And our youth is strong because they can go against the stream, against the current. You know, it's easy to go just, you know, you are on the water and you just float, you know, on top of it. But Christians go against the current. No longer weak. You know, but some people will still say, I don't need this crutch. And I still say to them, you do. You do. Let me give you an example. Miriam Gross. This is a London literati lady. She's a observer editor, maybe in the past, but she was one of the editors. She says, listen to this. Are you with me? Let's go. Although I've always been aware of the God-shaped hole. Listen to me. She's an atheist. She doesn't believe in God. Although I've always been aware of the God-shaped hole in me, religious faith of any kind seems to me to be completely irrational and self-deluding. Okay, your crutch is irrational, but you need it. You know even that you need it. So it's only rational to accept it if you need it. So people know about the need. They do. Let me say this. A few years ago on BBC4, there was this program by an atheist, and he said, little children and children in general, naturally, listen to this, naturally, they believe in the supernatural. They relate to the supernatural. This is what atheist says. Children, they naturally relate to the supernatural. And so we have to suppress it through education and influence. Seriously. Richard Dawkins, I see Emmanuel is asking a question. There, raising his hand. Emmanuel, did you want to say something? Emmanuel, I don't hear you.
Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
Okay, so my question is, if the atheist, if the children, when you said about the BBC4 thing, yeah, how do they know? Is it an estimate, or
How do they know what?
how do they know children believe in supernatural?
Okay, so this is psychology, yeah? We have psychology as one of the subjects. So through psychology, they know that children tend to relate to something higher, naturally. It's like they tend to seek for the breast when they are born. They just cannot help themselves. They look for the breast and they are waiting for the milk. So in the same way, this is psychology. How they did it? Excellent question. Emmanuel, I love these questions. You would need to look at it.
Thank you.
You would need to look at maybe some books that write about it. I haven't done that research. So big question. Yeah. But what they say, we need to suppress it through education. Richard Dawkins, I mean, you've got Richard Dawkins closer to you than me, which I'm sorry about. I wrote about Richard Dawkins, my dissertation for my MA, because I love him so much. I wrote several, he's not a believer, of course. He is actually an atheist, proper atheist. But he would always say, I know that when you look at the things around you, it suggests that there is a designer. I know, but you have to ignore it. He will use the strongest word. You have to ignore. You have to tell your mind it's not. You have to educate your mind. It's not rational to believe it was made, it's designed. It's just a perception, but you need to know that it's not designed. Okay, suppress it. If you think it's designed. By the way, that's how I became Christian. I felt, everything around me is somehow designed. And I thought that cannot happen by just nature. Listen to Billy Graham. Billy Graham. I would wish we could hear John Wesley today. It's amazing we can still hear Billy Graham, how he preached. You remember the man. I mean, that was a gift. I mean, when I hear him speaking, it's right to the heart. He's not messing about. Look what he said about the human conscience. He said, even if you don't believe what I'm saying, you believe what I'm saying. But even if you reject the truth of what I'm saying, there is rooted inside you a conviction which you can suppress with the years, but which is there nonetheless, which is telling you that the things are so. People can suppress it. People can even throw away the crutch and pretend that they are not limping. but the need inside is real. Billy Graham says, you see, there is a little voice speaking to you while I was speaking. And that's the voice of the Spirit of God. Now, people can go against what I'm saying, but they cannot go against the Spirit of God. They can reject it, they can suppress it, but it's still there. And I love that. I think we need to challenge people more and tell them, you know, even though you are rejecting what I'm saying, you know in your heart that it is so. In your heart is something that is telling you that the things I'm telling you are so. I think we need to go deeper. Not so much in, you know, we don't have to be PhDs. But we have to trust God that He actually put the need for Him in people. It's there. And so we can call it out. We can call it out. Anyway, let me conclude with 4 little reminders. That one thing will never go away. The need for God will never go away. How do I know? Well, just listen to this. Do you remember Martha and Mary? Jesus says to Martha, one thing is necessary. And that one thing was Mary sitting at his feet, listening to his word. Mary needed Jesus crazy much. She did. Even more than the work, she was happy to help, but for her to sit at his feet, she was just connected like daughter to her father. That's what she needed. And Jesus says that one thing is necessary. You know, remember that rich but poor man. Remember that rich man but poor. What do I need to be saved? Well, you need to keep the commandments. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is there 6 as well? Sorry, not 1, 2, 3. I'm sorry. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Jesus mentioned 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And he says, I did all that. I was faithful to my friends, to my church, to my synagogue. I did all that. What still am I lacking? And Jesus said, one thing you still lack. God has not entered your heart. 1, 2, 3, 4 commandments you are missing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Honestly, it's mainly the one. I am your God who called you from Egypt, from the land of slavery. You know that first commandment is no commandment. Look at the synagogue, yeah? On each synagogue has the 10 commandments on above its doors. The first commandment is Anoki. Anoki. What is Anoki? What does it mean? First command, Anoki. What does it mean? My brother Jew, help me. What is Anoki? It is I. Because that's how the first commandment starts. You know, they put just first word of each commandment. And the first commandment starts with the word I. I am the Lord, your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the bond, out of the land of slavery, into a free land. If God is not our God, everything else will be. And this young man had his possession, his God. Sell, get rid of it, and follow me. And then you'll be fulfilled and filled. Now, when we talk about rich man, by the way, he was not, you know, we are not talking about somebody has few houses. I mean, when it says he was rich, he was seriously rich. You know, we are talking about Queen of England. Yeah, we are just not talking that he had a little bit more money in his bank account. He was seriously rich. And I'm not saying that our little bit what we have cannot become God to us. Not at all. So Jesus says, one thing you still lack. Tell it to your friends. You know, even if you have everything in this life, remember the rich people, they have everything and they can commit suicide just because they are empty, completely empty. They completely lose direction when there is nothing to reach. It's like the end and you jump off it down only to end your life because there is nothing. But if you know you can reach higher to the one that you really need, you have something to live for. Psalm 27:4, one thing I asked of the Lord, and that I will seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all my days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of the Lord and to inquire in his temple. One thing I asked of the Lord, one thing, I want to be close to him. I know we have to work, I know we have to provide, I know we have to do so many things, but let's keep this fire on. We need God. One thing I asked of the Lord, that I can be connected to him. Because otherwise you end up like Revelation 3:17, just read it there. Revelation 3:17, because the people who say, I don't need the crutch, really say, I need nothing. That's what Revelation 3:17 says. You know, they say we need nothing. And they stay blind, naked, or pitiable and wretched. But they will recognize the blindness, nakedness, poverty, pity, and wretchedness only later. They will find out. When the day of reckoning comes, people reevaluate life and they recognize they are nothing and they have nothing. And therefore I am proud of my crutch. Tell them I am proud of my crutch. And I want you to recognize the need for it too. My God, who knows about my weakness, my guilt and shame, my emptiness and my vanity. And he comes to support the weak limbs and to strengthen my walk, to take away my guilt and shame and fill my void inside with his presence and to extend my vanity unto eternity. I am proud of my crutch. Was it a great message from the Lord? Not from me, but I was encouraged, I was challenged. You know, as a young man, when I became a Christian, my whole family was laughing. My granddad's brother said, you shouldn't be called by the surname. I was challenged by my friends telling me that I'm just, you know, weakling. I was challenged. And that's why God gave me the time and opportunity to spend on those thoughts. There is much more that could be said, but I hope this would be just a little encouragement to us when we face our friends. Take it as a privilege when people challenge your faith from all sides, because you can get equipped to respond and to be strong and to be able maybe to bring more to the only fountain